She moaned under his hands, not knowing her husband was watching from the shadows. You don't wake up thinking, today's the day I lose my marriage. It starts slower. Softer. Like a draft from a window you didn't know was open. At first, it's a forgotten kiss. Then it's a dinner where she's quiet, scrolling through her phone just a bit too long. Then it's a laugh you haven't heard before, over a message she won't show you. Elaine and I were together for 10 years. Married for 8. 2 kids. 2 cars. A mortgage we complained about and a garden we never quite finished planting. We weren't fiery or wild. We were consistent. We were the kind of couple people called solid. I thought that was enough. The first sign was her perfume. She used to wear lavender and vanilla, soft, familiar, warm. But one evening, as she leaned in to kiss my cheek before heading out, I smelled something darker. Spicy. Amber, maybe. I didn't ask about it until later. It's nothing, she said. I just felt like something new. Elaine didn't like new. She hated changing shampoo brands. Then came the nights away. Work dinner, she said once. Networking event, another time. But her stories felt rehearsed, her eyes darted like they were chasing her own words. The details never quite landed. She'd talk fast, then smile too hard. And there was her phone. She started keeping it face down. Always on silent. One night, it buzzed after midnight. She tapped the screen before I could even ask. Spam, she said. I should block that number. But she didn't. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But believing felt like betrayal, of myself. So I started watching. Not confronting. Not accusing. Just watching. I noted when she left, what time she came back. I tracked the outfits she wore. High heels for a casual dinner with coworkers. Lipstick too red for a Tuesday. Still, I said nothing. Until the weekend trip. She told me she was going to a wellness retreat with a friend from yoga. 3 days. No phones allowed. I just need to reset, she said. Reconnect with myself. I nodded. Packed her bag. Told her to enjoy it. Hugged her longer than usual. Then, that night, I opened her laptop. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe I didn't expect to find anything. But there it was. A calendar invite. Marked private. With an address. Downtown. The name of the event. It wasn't a yoga retreat. It was called the Red Lantern Gathering. That phrase sat in my chest like ice. I copied the address. Pasted it into my phone. Looked it up. No website. No listings. Just forums. Whispers. A private venue. Exclusive. Selective. Something about masks. And, exploring your darker self. My hands were shaking. The next day, I told the kids I was working late. Left dinner on the stove. Texted her, hope you're relaxing. She didn't reply. I drove to the address downtown. Industrial zone. Dead streets. Faded streetlights. Her car was parked a block away. That's how I knew I was right. I sat in mine for a long time. Engine off. Window cracked. Listening to the pulse in my own ears. Then I got out. The building had no name. Just a black door beneath a red bulb. It pulsed slowly, like it was alive. A man stood outside. Tall. Black suit. Earpiece. He didn't ask for my name. Just looked me over. I said, I'm here to meet someone. He nodded once. Opened the door. The first thing I noticed was the heat. It wrapped around me like velvet. Heavy. Scented. Wax and skin and perfume. The room was dark, but not pitch black. Lit like a stage. Shadows everywhere. People moved slowly, like dancers underwater. Everyone wore masks. Every glance felt rehearsed. I walked through the haze. Past red curtains. Past murmurs. A woman giggled softly behind silk. A man moaned in response. And then I heard her. Not her name. Not her voice. Her laugh. I followed it. Every step a betrayal of who I used to be. And then I saw her. Elaine. Wearing a mask of black lace. Nothing else but heels and a sheer wrap that did nothing to hide her. A man knelt in front of her. His hands on her hips. Her fingers in his hair. She tilted her head back. And she moaned. She didn't know I was there. But I knew her. Every curve. Every scar. Every inch of the woman I thought was mine. And I watched as she let another man worship her. My wife. The mother of my children. And she didn't hesitate. She came home like nothing had happened. But I couldn't unsee the way she let him touch her. She walked through the front door Sunday evening at 7:12 p.m. I remember the time because I was sitting in the dark, watching the numbers on the microwave tick forward. I heard her keys before I saw her face. She stepped inside like any other Sunday. Coat over one arm, smile soft and tired. "Hey," she said. "You okay?" I nodded. Too quickly. "You look pale. Didn't sleep much." She murmured, kicking off her shoes. The retreat was intense. I watched her. The way her hand moved to her neck as she said the word intense. She always touched her neck when she lied. A reflex she didn't know she had. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small pouch. Tossed it on the table. "Lavender tea. For you. Thought it might help." I stared at it. A souvenir from a life I wasn't invited into. She made dinner that night. Pasta, her go-to comfort food. She poured us both wine. Her eyes searched mine as we ate. Like she could feel the shift but didn't know where it was coming from. I nodded when she talked. Smiled when I had to. But inside I was watching her frame that weekend for me with 1,000 false brushstrokes. I kept seeing her on that stage. Her body, the way it curved into that man's touch. The way her lips parted, not in resistance, but welcome. I couldn't unsee it. I didn't sleep. The next morning, she kissed me before leaving for work. Same lips, same scent, same warmth. But it felt like kissing someone else's wife. After she left, I sat at the edge of our bed for over an hour. I don't remember thinking. Just existing. My phone buzzed twice. I didn't look. Then I opened my laptop. I started searching. Not for the club. Not directly. But for signs. Red Lantern Gathering. Private events, urban BDSM. How to know if your partner is living a double life. It felt ridiculous, typing those words. But every click built a picture I couldn't deny. The club was real. It moved locations, but the entrance was always the same, red bulb, black door. Invitation only. No cameras. Absolute discretion. And masks. Always masks. There were posts. Anonymous confessions. People describing rituals, scenes, roles. Nothing illegal. But everything hidden. And I realized, I wasn't just an outsider. I was a civilian. A man with a picket fence brain in a city of dark basements. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was fascinated. That week, I started watching her differently. She was more alive than I remembered. More patient with the kids. More focused during conversations. Something in her had settled. Like a hunger had been fed. And that broke me more than rage would have. One night, as she stood in front of the bathroom mirror brushing her hair, I asked, "Did you find what you were looking for?" She paused. "What do you mean?" "At the retreat." She smiled. "Yeah. I think I did." She met my eyes in the mirror. And for the briefest moment, I don't know if it was real or imagined, I saw guilt. Just a flicker. Then gone. That Thursday, she said she had to stay late at work. Quarter-end reporting. I nodded. Said, "Don't stress yourself." But as soon as she left, I opened the app. The one I'd installed to track her car. Blue dot. Moving west. Industrial zone. Same place. I didn't hesitate. I followed. 20 minutes later, I parked one block behind hers. Same red light above the door. Same slow pulse. Like the building itself was breathing. I stood across the street for a long time. Watched people go in. Well-dressed. Calm. Confident. Some wore collars under coats. Others walked with their heads bowed. No one looked ashamed. I stepped out of the car. My heart pounded so loud I was sure someone would hear it. This time, the doorman didn't stop me. Just gave a small nod. Inside, the heat met me again. Heavy. Intoxicating. I passed the bar. Turned left at the curtain. And there she was. Elaine. No mask this time. Just her. Laughing. Glass in hand. Surrounded by strangers who weren't really strangers. Her face was different here. Open. Lit from within. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't watching a betrayal. I was watching her become. The deeper I followed her, the more I questioned if I ever truly knew the woman I married. Friday. The kids were at my sister's. Elaine said she was going out with a friend, Emma, from her old yoga class. They hadn't seen each other in a while. "Don't wait up," she said, slipping on heels I'd never seen before. Tall. Crimson. Sharp. I watched from the window as her taillights disappeared down the street. And then I left too. This time, I didn't park across the street. I walked through the same black door behind two people dressed in ordinary clothes, just a woman in jeans and a coat, a man in a button-down. They looked like they were going to a jazz bar. Nothing about them said this is where I leave my skin. Inside, I realized it wasn't just a sex club. It was ritual. The lighting was lower than before. Warmer. Candles lined the corridor, flickering like nervous thoughts. Every surface felt soft. Velvet. Satin. Breathing. Music drifted through the space, but it wasn't music you could hum. Just sound. Pulses. Like the room had a heartbeat. People didn't talk. They watched. They moved. They obeyed. I passed a room where a woman in white lace stood barefoot on a pedestal, eyes closed, as strangers touched her arms in silence. Reverent. Like she was holy. In another room, a man stood chained, his expression blank. A woman circled him slowly, dragging a feather across his skin. He trembled, but didn't flinch. This place had rules, but no signs. Only energy. And then I saw her. Elaine. She was walking across the room with two other women. All three were masked. Black silk, gold trim. Her dress was tight, sheer at the sides. She walked differently here, hips loose, shoulders back. Like she belonged to gravity in a different way. I followed from a distance. Never closer than 20 feet. She stopped at a room guarded by red rope. A man stepped aside. Only one of the women followed her in. The curtain closed. I waited. 10 minutes. Then 20. The curtain opened again. And there she was. But she wasn't the same. Elaine stepped into the corridor barefoot, robe slipping off one shoulder. Her mask gone. Her skin glowing. A man followed. Shirtless. Marked. Hands on her hips like she was a throne. She turned to him. Kissed his cheek. Whispered something. Then she walked away. I stood still. Frozen. But not afraid. Something in me cracked, but it didn't break. Because suddenly I wasn't watching a stranger. I was watching someone who had been hiding inside my wife for years. And I began to understand. This wasn't infidelity. This was transformation. I went home that night and didn't cry. I cleaned the kitchen. Put the kettle on. Sat at the table and stared at my hands. They were shaking. Not from grief. From adrenaline. Something inside me had changed. Not because I wanted what she had. But because I needed to know how far this went. How deep. How true. She looked me in the eyes the next morning, poured me coffee, and I wondered if she could taste her other life on her tongue. She came home at 2:41 a.m. I had left the porch light on. The front room was dim. One lamp, casting gold across the floor like memory. I pretended to sleep on the couch. The door creaked open slowly. She moved quietly, shoes in hand, hair tied up, dress changed. Always meticulous, even in secrecy. I listened to the sound of her footsteps crossing the living room. Light. Careful. She stood behind me for a moment. I felt her eyes on my back. Then she climbed the stairs. I waited until the bedroom door closed before I opened my eyes. The next morning, she was already in the kitchen when I woke up. Wearing a sweatshirt, hair damp, humming. "You slept down here?" she asked, not turning. "Yeah. Couldn't fall asleep." She poured 2 cups of coffee. Set one in front of me. "Rough night?" I asked, watching her fingers wrap around her mug. She blinked. "Emma's going through a divorce." It got heavy. She said it like a woman who had rehearsed it while driving home. I nodded. Stirred my coffee. And I watched her sip hers. And I thought, can she taste him? Does she remember the sound she made when he held her hips? She smiled. But her eyes didn't meet mine. That whole day, I walked through our home like it was a museum. Every room felt altered. The hallway where we hung our kids' drawings. The bed we'd made love in. The shower where she now washed off another world. Everything looked the same. But nothing felt real. That night, I opened my laptop again. This time, I didn't just search. I applied. There was a link buried 3 forums deep. A form. Vague. No name. No photos. Just questions. What are you looking for? Do you prefer to watch, obey, or lead? Are you afraid of who you might become? I didn't lie. I wrote, I want to understand. I want to see what she sees. I hit submit. I didn't expect a response. But the next day, it came. An anonymous email. 1 sentence. Come Saturday. Same door. No mask required. Saturday came. She said she was going to the gym. Then maybe a spa. She kissed me quickly. Keys jingled. The door closed. I waited 15 minutes. Then left too. This time, I wasn't following her. I was following the version of myself I hadn't met yet. The doorman looked at me. This time, his eyes lingered longer. No mask, he asked. They said I didn't need one. He nodded once. Opened the door. Inside, the air wrapped around me like a hand that already knew my secrets. I didn't hesitate. I walked deeper. Past the red curtain. Past the familiar hush. Tonight, the space was different. Lit more intimately. Fewer people. More watching. And then I saw her. Elaine. Not on a stage. Not in the shadows. Sitting. Alone. In a circle of candlelight. She didn't see me. Her mask was off. Her eyes closed. A man knelt in front of her, but he didn't touch her. She held her own hands. Breathing. Still. She looked serene. And I realized something. She came here not to cheat. She came here to disappear. To shed the expectations of wife, mother, woman. To become something ancient. Something unnamed. And in that moment, watching her, I didn't feel hatred. I felt awe. I felt like I was standing in a cathedral built of flesh and silence. And I wasn't sure if I came here to confront her, or to join her. I didn't come here to be seen. But when her eyes met mine, I felt like I was the one exposed. She opened her eyes. I didn't mean to be standing so close. The room had shifted around us without warning, walls breathing, candles flickering shadows across skin and stone. There was no music now. Just breath. Just blood moving under skin. And then her eyes met mine. Elaine. She didn't gasp. Didn't look away. Her face didn't collapse into guilt or shame. She simply looked at me. And in that silence, I felt something more devastating than rage. Recognition. She saw me. The real me. Not the version she left at home with folded laundry and dinner plans. She saw the man who had followed her into the dark. And she didn't run. She held my gaze. I stepped forward. Every footstep was a confession. Not of forgiveness. Not of surrender. But of truth. A silent agreement passed between us, ancient and wordless. The man at her feet stood and bowed slightly. Then disappeared behind velvet. And we were alone. Elaine rose slowly, her robe loose, skin shimmering under candlelight like she was made of something more than flesh. She didn't speak. Neither did I. I wanted to touch her. Not to claim. Not to accuse. Just to know if this version of her was real. She reached out first. Her hand brushed my chest. "Why did you come here?" she asked. Her voice was low. Calm. But inside it was thunder. "To find you," I said. "You already had me." "No," I whispered. "I had the part of you that didn't breathe." She looked down. Closed her eyes. Exhaled. "You shouldn't be here." "But I am." And that was all it took. She stepped forward. Our foreheads touched. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't romantic. It was surrender. I felt her body tremble. I think mine did too. A woman in a crimson gown walked past us and paused. She looked at Elaine, then at me. "He doesn't wear a mask," she said. Elaine replied, "He doesn't need one." I didn't know what that meant. But I felt it. For the next hour, I didn't speak. I sat beside her in silence, watching others play their rituals. Some cruel. Some gentle. All deeply human. We didn't touch again. But we didn't separate. Even as the air between us felt like a confession neither of us dared speak. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I wasn't protecting. I wasn't hiding. I was witnessing. Her. Us. Me. When we finally left, we didn't say goodbye. She walked ahead of me, heels soft on stone. I watched the curve of her shoulders, the confidence in her spine. And I understood, the veil had lifted, and nothing I saw could be unseen. The woman I loved was more than I ever imagined. And the man I thought I was, might no longer exist. When she reached for my hand outside, I didn't pull away. I let her lead me deeper. We didn't speak until we were outside. The night was thick and quiet. The city's pulse slowed to a whisper. Even the street lamps seemed dimmer, like they too were exhausted by the weight of what we carried. Elaine walked ahead, then stopped. She turned to me. Held out her hand. I hesitated. Then I took it. Her fingers laced through mine, not with desperation, not with apology. Just certainty. Like this wasn't a new beginning, but a continuation of something unspoken. We didn't go home. Not yet. We walked. She led us into an alley behind the building. Quiet. Hidden. And there, she pressed her back against the brick wall and looked up at me. I never meant for you to see it like that, she said. I know. I wasn't trying to destroy us. My voice was softer than I expected. You weren't trying to save us, either. She swallowed. I didn't know how. Silence stretched between us. Long enough for truth to grow roots. I thought if you saw it, she continued, you'd leave. I did, I said. But not the way you think. Her brow furrowed. I left the version of myself that didn't want to understand. Her eyes glistened. And now. Now. I want to meet the version of you that never made it home. Her lips parted. Her breath caught. She stepped closer. Then you have to come with me. All the way. To where? To where I stopped being your wife, and became the version of myself I used to hide under your gaze. The idea terrified me. But the truth was, I'd already followed her halfway into that world. The line between who I was and who I could be had started to blur. She leaned into me. There's a gathering next weekend. Not at the club. Somewhere deeper. More private. Will they let me in? If you come as mine, they will. And if I come as me? She hesitated. Then you'll have to prove who that is. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because deep down, I knew. This story wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about evolution. She said it would be private. But nothing prepares you for the moment you realize the room is already watching. The address she gave me wasn't on any map. No signs. No markers. Just a gravel road that wound behind an abandoned vineyard, then disappeared into trees. I parked where the forest swallowed the last streetlight. The air was colder here. Still. Like even the wind respected the boundary. I walked the rest of the way. At the end of the path stood an old stone house. Ivy clung to its face like veins. Candles flickered in the windows, not electric, not staged. Real flame. Elaine was already there. She stood at the entrance, cloaked in deep burgundy, no makeup, barefoot on cold stone. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She nodded once. And I followed her in. The inside felt older than the outside. Heavy wood, narrow halls. Everything smelled of smoke and something floral I couldn't name. She led me past a series of small rooms. Some empty. Some closed. Behind one, I heard faint whispering. Behind another, the sharp crack of leather. No one spoke to us. But I felt them watching. We reached a chamber lit only by firelight. No furniture. Just cushions. Velvet curtains. And in the center, a circle of salt drawn by hand. Elaine stepped inside it. Turned to me. Take off your shoes, she said. I obeyed. Everything that's not real, leave it at the door. My hands trembled as I unbuttoned my shirt. Not from shame. From anticipation. She lit incense. Thick smoke curled around us, making the air taste ancient. Then she placed a blindfold in my hand. "Trust me?" she asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I slipped the cloth over my eyes. The darkness wasn't empty. It pulsed. I heard her steps circling me. Closer. Then distant. Someone else breathing nearby. No touching. Just presence. I felt time stretch. Minutes became hours. Or maybe seconds. There was no before or after, just now. And then her voice. "Do you see me differently now?" I said the only truth I had. "I don't know who you are anymore. But I want to." She exhaled. A sound between relief and mourning. Then fingers brushed mine. Not pulling. Inviting. "Then come meet me," she whispered. "All of me." And I stepped forward, into the dark, into the salt, into whatever came next. The moment she knelt before me, I realized I hadn't come here to understand her, I came here to unmask myself. I don't remember walking to the center. The moment I crossed into the circle, time unraveled. The past dissolved like ash in water. No more husband. No more man betrayed. Just breath. Just skin. Just truth. Elaine didn't speak. She didn't guide me. She waited. And then she knelt. Not in submission. Not in performance. In offering. Her eyes locked with mine, wide open, full of calm defiance. I felt the weight of a decade between us. A life built on rituals we never questioned, birthdays, vacations, Sunday pasta, quiet arguments in the hallway while the kids slept. And now this. No script. No safety net. Only the raw. "Why are you here?" someone behind me asked. I didn't turn. "I don't know," I said. "But I'm tired of lying to myself." A murmur passed through the circle. Approval. Or warning. Or both. Elaine rose. She walked around me, slow, deliberate, like orbit. She whispered things I didn't understand. Then a blindfold slid over my eyes. My heart thundered. Not from fear. From the release of it. Fingers touched my arms. My chest. Not sensual. Not cruel. Just contact. Human. Present. Someone whispered into my ear, "Let go." And I did. I let go of who I thought I needed to be. Of the man who clung to structure, control, pride. The man who turned away every time she asked for more, for something unnamed and wordless. I stood naked, not in body, but in self. Exposed. Accepted. And then the blindfold was lifted. Elaine stood in front of me. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with recognition. As if, finally, she saw someone worthy of the truth. Not because I became what she wanted. But because I stopped pretending I didn't want more too. She took my hand. Pressed it to her heart. "You were never the enemy," she said. I nodded. My voice caught in my throat. Because I knew. Neither of us had betrayed the other. We had only betrayed ourselves, by staying small. But not anymore. We came home without speaking, but nothing about us was silent anymore. The drive back was wordless. Elaine rested her hand on the window, fingers tapping a rhythm I didn't recognize. I drove slower than usual, not out of caution, but because the night felt thick with meaning. Like if we went too fast, it might all vanish. The trees blurred past us. The road curled like a ribbon being unwound. She didn't ask what I felt. And I didn't ask what she needed. We didn't need questions anymore. The silence wasn't empty. It was full. Full of the things we'd seen. Full of the versions of us we'd buried quietly between pillow talk and polite dinners. Full of what we might now become. At home, she went upstairs first. No ceremony. No waiting. I sat on the edge of the couch where I'd once pretended to sleep while she returned from her other life. Now that other life was mine too. The house felt the same. But I wasn't. She came down minutes later. Her hair damp. Face bare. A loose shirt that smelled like lavender and old summer days. She sat next to me. Our arms didn't touch, but our breath synced. "You still love me?" she asked, eyes on the floor. "I don't know who you are yet," I said. She nodded. "Fair." A pause. "I still love you," I added. This time, she looked at me. Her eyes were tired. But not dim. There was a fire behind them. One that had stopped asking permission to burn. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "Neither do I." Another silence. Then she asked something I didn't expect. "Do you want to tell the kids?" I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw the weight of her motherhood pressing against the edge of her truth. "Not everything," I said. "But one day, maybe. When they're old enough to understand that love doesn't always look like the stories we're told." Her lip trembled. She reached out. This time, our fingers touched. "I don't want to lie anymore," she said. "Then let's not." She leaned her head on my shoulder. And in that moment, I knew. We weren't healed. We weren't fixed. But we were real. And sometimes, that's enough. We never returned to who we were, but maybe that was the only way we survived. 3 weeks later, I watched her pack a small black bag again. Same quiet movements. Same care. But something was different. This time, she wasn't hiding. She turned to me at the door. "You don't have to wait up," she said. I nodded. "I won't." She lingered. Then asked, "Will you come next time?" I might. That was the truth. Because some nights, I still lay awake wondering what parts of her I'll never know. But other nights, I understand that mystery isn't absence. It's space. It's air between skin. It's the grace to grow in the dark. We don't talk much about that world now. Not because it's forbidden. But because it doesn't belong to language. It belongs to the places beneath it. We are quieter now. But not distant. More honest. Less certain. Sometimes we sleep tangled. Sometimes we sleep apart. But always, always, we choose to stay. Even after we stepped out of the shadows we built for each other. Even after the stories collapsed. Even after the truth stripped us bare. She doesn't need to be my wife in every room. And I don't need to be the man she thought she married. We are more now. Not because we healed. But because we broke open and stayed. Together. And that's how it ends. Not with betrayal. But with becoming.